Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. This is August 25, 2019, and you're on the Bible Forum. The Bible Forum is a ministry of alternatives, biblical counseling and education. It's a nonprofit corporation. Donations to this ministry are tax deductible. You will get a receipt, and it will assure that the ministry can continue. All you have to do is click the donate button on the Bible Forum website, thebibleforum.net. Click the button. It'll take you to the PayPal, and you can set your stuff up there. If you would rather send a check, email me at thebibleforum@gmail.com. I'll give you an address. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We are live. If you do not get our once weekly email that tells you what's going to be happening and keeps you up to date with stuff, let me know. Shoot me an email at thebibleforum@gmail.com, and I'll add you to the list. We got a lot of things that have happened this week, a lot of important stuff. Here at the beginning of the program are what we call short shots. We just kind of give you little glimpses of things that are happening. Later on in the program, we'll develop other things, maybe some of these things. But I was taken this week by the fact that Julian Davidian is back in the pulpit. You remember him? He's a grandson of the deceased now, Billy Graham. He pastored in Florida until he ran into problems. The problems in general were him taking up with another woman, not his wife. He lost that ministry, he lost his wife. But the Christian Post is indicating that he is now getting ready for the fall launch of his unaffiliated The Sanctuary Church in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. This is a man who was stripped of his preaching credentials in 2015 because of extramarital relationships. How does he get back? How do you undo that situation? In his defense, he says that all that was going on was consensual, therefore it was not an abuse of power. Did his wife consent? We're not sure about that. So now we have a picture of a tanned, tattooed, and buff Davidian starting his own church. And it all makes perfect sense. Pastor Yacht of Spokane, Washington, got arrested in the last week or so for going into a public library. His crime? He represents those who do not agree that drag queens should be indoctrinating our small children. The drag queen event at the library was open to the public, but apparently was not open to this pastor. Brad Dacus, president of Pacific Justice, said the criminal charges against the pastor, quote, pose a serious threat to free speech, end of quote. We are vigorously contesting the charges and will continue seeking justice as long as it takes. We are at a crossroads in our nation where the survival of fundamental freedoms enshrined in the First Amendment is at stake. For his part, Yacht did not consider himself a protester, but police ordered him anyway to stay away and to go across the street where protesters had gathered. Yacht did not physically interfere with nor touch police, nor did he make threatening movements toward the police or use threatening words at any time. He was arrested simply for questioning the police favorable treatment of supporters and unfavorable treatment of anyone perceived to be a non-supporter of these men dressed up like women in gaudy makeup and attire, sitting down with 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds to read stories to them. And we have seen in some cases what some of those stories are, and they're not always Jack and Jill. At court, the motion to dismiss it argues that the police report does not support the charge of obstructing officers. The motion also points out libraries' historical role in encouraging the exchange of ideas and notes the clear viewpoint of discrimination in the vastly different treatment given to supporters versus non-supporters. WorldNet Daily reported that while the police were ordering Yacht and others concerned about DQSH to leave or go across the street, they did allow supporters of the drag queens to surround and enter the library. Some of the event supporters carried provocative signs depicting Jesus in a dress and reading to children. Other supporters dressed like angels with oversized wings. After he was bailed out, Yacht began working with Pacific, what was it? It was called PJI, Pacific Justice Institute. Stay tuned. We found a published report this week. Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein was taken off suicide watch after being examined by a doctoral-level psychologist just days before he hanged himself in his prison cell. The implication here was a decision that the patient made based on a sound recommendation by an accredited expert. Even though just 2 days before his death, he had signed a will placing all of his property, worth more than $577 million, in a trust called the 1953 Trust, after the year of his birth. This according to a copy of the document seen by Reuters. The reality here, which is not being discussed and probably never will be, is that psychology is the study of the soul of the mind. A definition first recorded in 1748 from Christian Wolff's Psychologia Empirica, dated 1732. Its main modern behavioral sense is from the early 1890s. This comes from a website called etymonline.com, ETYMON. That's just fancy wording for saying that absolutely nothing in real terms. The question becomes, if this is a soul doctor, what is your soul? Well, your soul is your basic being. However, the psychologists and psychiatrists talk about mental problems. So what is your mind? Well, the mind is where decisions are made. Are we talking about our brain? Is that where our decisions of life are made? Or are we talking about your heart, that immaterial part of your being? These are questions the psychological community has ignored for obvious reasons. No psychologist is seeking to reach and thereby heal your soul, even though they are psychologists, doctors, practitioners, studiers of the soul. And the studies done by the psychological community focus on behavior, attitude, and thought. Now, while the brain directs these three, the brain is not the source for them. These are the purview of what we would call our heart, that central, internal, immaterial part of our being where all of these things take place. Are you confused? Well, so are the experts. And they earn huge salaries, making people believe they're doctors of the soul by terminology. But their track record in the last 100 years reveals a significant amount of confusion. You see, it is from the heart that all choices derive. The heart can be hardened. The heart can be discouraged. The Bible says that God tries the heart of men and can turn the heart. The Bible says God gives understanding to the heart, not to the brain, not to the mind. Psalm 44:21 says, and God knows the secret of the heart. The heart in this context is said to be made glad. Psalm 10:20, the heart of the wicked is little worth, and deceit is in the heart of them that imagine evil. Proverbs 20 verse 5, counsel is in the heart of a man like deep water. Proverbs 22:15, foolishness is in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Jeremiah 17:10, I, the Lord, search the heart to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. Jesus in Matthew 12 verse 34 said, out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. Didn't say the brain. Matthew 12:35, out of the good treasure of the heart bringeth forth good things. And of course the same is true of an evil man, who out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things. The world system is dedicated to any and all things contrary to God. You need to know that. Expect that. It is fundamental to what they are. And all of this is because that is the natural heart of mankind, running contrary to God. Look at the life product of a Jeffrey Dahmer or a Jeffrey Epstein. That is the condition of the heart, not what he feels, not what he says. Jeffrey Epstein was not a stupid man. He was apparently quite intelligent and measured in his ways. Intelligent and measured enough to fool a trained psychologist, one who is confused already about the human physiology and psychology, one who believes the brain is our mind, and that our decisions flow primarily from our brain alone. One who is looking at a life pattern of deceit and debauchery, and then in a few hours of testing and or conversation can declare that that man is cured. If not cured, at least safe. Safe enough in this man's thinking, safe enough in Jeffrey's thinking, and in his patterning, that he does not need to be watched. It wonders me, and has for decades, as to which of these men is more confused. I don't know if you listened to Rush Limbaugh. You didn't have to this week. He managed to get on Fox News. He managed to be all over the website because Rush Limbaugh wants to know. He reported that the Obamas just bought a $15 million mansion on Martha's Vineyard, about 100 or 2 feet from the ocean. Why would the Obamas do that? Limbaugh asked. Why would the brilliant Barack Hussein O plunk down $15 million on a property that's going to be ruined and destroyed inside of 10, maybe 12 years at the outside because of climate change? And then he recalled Obama in 2008 saying that his presidency would mark the beginning of the sea levels lowering and the planet healing. So is this just simply putting your money where your mouth is? As of 2018, Barack Obama's net worth was about $40 million. No, that's not from pensions that he might have gotten. It's from projects such as speaking engagements and books, along with the 6-figure presidential pension. And all of this according to a website called GoBankingRates.com. But Michelle Obama's best-selling book, Becoming, and the couple's production deal with Netflix has boosted their worth to more than $135 million, according to the Post. All this comes after the Obamas spent a great deal of time in the area where they bought the house. The Kennedys live there, you might have remembered. My thinking says they were accepted by the Kennedys and the others in that area, and therefore bought property to be close to those who love them. Chicago and Washington, D.C. are becoming too rough and too dangerous. Have you seen pictures of this mansion? It is beautiful. It is big. Who wouldn't want to live there? The majority of the nation's homeless people now live in California. They say there's a smartphone app for everything, and doubters should know there are now at least 2 dealing with excrement on the sidewalks of San Francisco. The city has its official SF311 app, part of its San Francisco at Your Service program. And last year, a private developer introduced Snapcrap, which allows residents to upload a photo of an offending specimen directly to the SF311 website. This alerts the city's now 5-person poop patrol, that's what they call them, which will follow up, presumably, with a smile. I know then there are the maps, at least 3 maps, charting the location of poop complaints in the city have been assembled, and the latest is by a nonprofit corporation known as Open the Books. Their map shows most of the city covered by brown pin dots, each marking a report to the Department of Public Works. The website, realityhop.com, dubbed San Francisco, quote, the doo-doo capital of the U.S., end of quote. They noted that the city's poop reports almost tripled between 2011 and 2017. The problem draws attention because the poop increasingly comes not from dogs, but from humans. Homelessness is probably the leading edge of the problem in San Francisco, as well as Los Angeles, where 36,000 people live on the streets and many do their business there. A single father, known only as Todd P. in the documents, is being investigated by the Alberta, Canada, Human Rights Commission after a complaint was filed against him in 2017 by an applicant who claims the father violated the Alberta Human Rights Act. Now, inquiring minds want to know, what did he do? Well, this father placed a classified ad on the Canadian back in August of 2017. He was looking for a babysitter for the next night when he was set to have dinner with a friend. His children at the time were 8 and 5. Among the applicants was one that said the person knew CPR, first aid, had a clean criminal record, and had 7 years of experience taking care of children. The father replied by asking the person's age and gender, and the applicant responded by writing, "I'm male and 28 years old." But then the father's dinner plans fell through, so he stopped corresponding with this individual, who was only one of numerous applicants. But on September 1st, the potential babysitter filed a formal complaint with the Alberta Human Rights Commission claiming age and gender discrimination within Section 8 of the Alberta Human Rights Act, which bans discrimination based on several categories, including age and gender. The Alberta Human Rights Commission has not dismissed the complaint, even though a similar case against a mom within the province was previously rejected. An investigator in that case recommended the mother be required to pay $1,000 to $1,500 for damages to dignity. If you're going to hire babysitters, make sure you know who they are. Do not advertise. The world is changing. There is now a prominent Yale University professor who wants to drop Darwinism. Now, that's just academic suicide. Here's the Overstock founder and CEO who resigned. Seems that he was at the center of a Russian investigation in a big way. I'm gonna have to go. I messed that one up altogether. This is not the beginning of the story. This is a list of things we're going to talk about later. I'm getting old. The Yale professor that wants Darwinism to go away. The Overstock founder and CEO who resigned and is now at the center of the Russian investigation. We're going to look at Iceland. Iceland's in mourning. They're mourning the passing of, wait for it, a glacier. No, I'm not kidding. We're going to look at the history of climate change beginning with Noah's flood. And then there's socialism and the great debate over just who are the Canaanites. You might not care, but this seems to be a big deal with the Palestinians. Oh, and we got mail this week. Seems someone's not happy. We'll talk about that. And we'll look at just what is socialism and why it's so much better. Ought to be interesting. Stay tuned.